Hello and welcome to the She Reads Romance Books podcast, the ultimate show for romance book lovers looking for the best books worth reading. I'm your host, Leslie Murphy, and in each short episode, I share my favorite book list of recommendations so you know exactly what to add to your must-read list. Join me as I explore the romance genre and have fun collecting book boyfriends along the way, because life is better with a love story. Hello, readers. Welcome back to the She Reads Romance Books podcast. This is going to be a super exciting episode because joining me today is the super popular romance book author who is crushing it as of late with her sports romance book, particularly now her hockey series. And we get another new release that is coming out on April 19th. Cannot wait to hear all about that book. And I am talking, of course, about Kandi Steiner. So welcome, Kandi.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Yay, so glad to have you. I have to say that when you started the Kings of Ice hockey series, I loved Meet Your Match, such a good book. And from that book, I was like, okay, when are we getting Daddy P's story? I cannot wait to hear more about this hot goalie. And it's finally coming on April 19th. Yay. But before we launch into that book, I know you recently had a really busy and hopefully fun weekend in my neck of the woods, actually, in Charleston at the Sweetgrass author event. Tell us all about that first. How did it go?
Yeah, do you live in Charleston?
I'm in North Carolina, but it's not far, just maybe like 3.5 hours for me. And I really wanted to go, but I just didn't make it work. So tell me what I missed.
First of all, I love North Carolina too. We just went to Asheville for the first time a couple months ago, and it was fantastic. I loved it. Even in the dead of winter when everything was gross, it was still beautiful.
I'm glad you had a good time.
It was so fun. We're on Zoom, by the way, listeners, and I keep doing my, I don't know, I'm talking with my hands and my thumbs keep going up, I guess. And so it's making little thumb bubbles. It's really making me giggle.
I love it.
So yeah, Charleston was great. Sweetgrass author event was wonderful. This was my first time doing a book signing pregnant. And so I was 21 weeks pregnant at the time. And I just very naively thought that it was going to be fine and I could do signings just like I normally do.
Like normal, right?
Yeah, I was like, I won't feel any different. It'll be fine. It was
because you're a rock star, so of course, yeah, why not?
It was very humbling. I'm very fortunate I had a great team with me. So my husband, he has assisted me at every signing for the last couple of years. And it's night and day different having him there because he loves me so sincerely and knows me better than like anybody. So without me having to say things, he just kind of knows what I need, which is amazing. And then I had two really close friends of mine. So my friend Maggie and my friend Hannah, who's actually an audiobook narrator, and she's actually narrating Chloe in Learn Your Lesson.
Awesome. Nice.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
She's fantastic. You guys have probably listened to books by her. She's Hannah Chiclana. So if you listen to Fair Catch or Close Quarters or The Christmas Blanket, Say Yes, those are just a few of mine that she's done. And she's a rock star. So
wow. Well, I can imagine those events, like they must be so fun, like just to connect with your author friends and readers, but they have to be so incredibly exhausting. I mean, just the prep and then everything that goes with it, the cost, just your time, like exhausting.
It honestly is. And it's more so now than ever before. I've been in this for 10 years now, which is crazy to say. And it's wild to think of how book signings used to be back in 2013, 2014, 2015. I mean, all the way up to 2019. Yes, there were big events. Yes, sometimes we had high attendance or long lines. But for the most part, no matter what event was happening, you got a break. You were able to take time to go walk around and say hi to your author friends. It just was very low key and kind of relaxed. And that's not the case anymore. It feels like every book signing I've gone to since the pandemic has been way larger than life and just, it's incredible. When I look sometimes at the lines wrapping around the buildings and I see readers just, walking up with arms full of books to get signed. It is absolutely unreal and so cool to be a part of, especially being in an industry that's kind of like by women for women,
Yeah.
So it's really,
Yes.
really cool.
Yes, that's awesome. Well, I consider myself like an extrovert introvert though, but I think like at something like that, I'd probably get way overwhelmed and I'd be like, oh my gosh, like take me to my happy place. But
I'm an extrovert, or I identify as an extrovert, but I say the same thing. I'm like,
yeah,
I don't really recharge being around people. I enjoy it. I really love being with my friends and family and reconnecting. I love meeting new people, but then
yeah.
I'm drained at the end of the day. So after a book signing, a normal book signing, I'm like, don't talk to me. I just need to like eat and lay in a bed silently. I don't want to do anything else. And I'm exhausted. The next day always feels like I'm hungover. My voice is still recovering. You can probably hear a little bit of a rasp, and it's wild. But being pregnant, it was like tenfold. I could not believe how much pain my body was in at the end of the day. I stand at a cocktail table and I had a fatigue mat, but it didn't matter. I mean, I by 6 p.m., which is when the event technically ended, I had been standing for 8 hours at that point and signing. And from 11 was the volunteer signing, noon was when the regular signing started, and it was nonstop people at the table. So it's so fun because I'm getting to meet all these people. Some people I've never heard of, some people that I talk to online, some people I'm seeing again for the third or fourth time. And it's incredible, but it's exhausting and you're talking nonstop and you're asking questions and you don't have time to eat. You barely have time to drink water. It's wild. So at
Oh my
6,
God.
I told them, "Anybody who's in my line, I will stay and sign for, but I have to sit down. I can't stand any
Oh
longer."
yeah.
So I finally sat down and I could not get back up. So the people who were in my line for the last hour, from 6 to 7, just kind of like leaned down to take a picture with me
Oh
by the
my gosh.
table.
Well, you got to do what you got to do. Did you find that with this crowd that you were signing like one particular book, like was there a favorite for that event that people kept coming up to you with, you think?
Yeah, so this one was really interesting because there were swag bags and the sponsors, the event hosts, they had asked like if anybody wants to throw anything in the swag bag, you can send it to us. So bookmarks, pens, things like that. And I was like, "Can I send a book?" And they were like, "Sure."
Awesome.
So I thought it would be okay. I have a book in my Red Zone Rival series. It's book number 1 called Fair Catch. And
Yeah.
for whatever reason, I think maybe because Blindside was the first book in that series that went really big,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think everyone started there and then just kind of read forward. And not many people go back and read Fair Catch. And I love Fair Catch. So I forced it on everybody. I put it in everybody's bag. And so that was really cool. So lots of people
That's
coming up to get Fair Catch
awesome.
signed, which is not typically the case. So that was really nice.
Wow. So cool. I love Blindside. I mean, too, that's probably like all-time favorite book of yours. It was just
Oh,
incredible, but that's such a nice thing that you did. So awesome. And is like an events too where you meet most of your like author besties or
yeah.
you probably don't have time even to like say hi or bye, because it's so crazy.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually just did a post about this on Instagram because I absolutely love getting together with my author friends, and it is so rare that it happens in person. I mean, maybe we have one writing retreat every couple years. If you go to a writing conference, you might see some people, but otherwise, book signings is really your only chance, right? But
Right.
you cannot talk to them during the signing. I mean, maybe you have time to run up to their table 10 minutes before, give them a quick hug, take a picture, but most of the time you can't even get that done. So I typically like to look at like who's going to the signing, who I haven't seen in a while, who I really want to, and I'll try to get together with them somehow. So I'll set up some dinners or I'll be like, "What hotel are you staying at? Let's hang out in the lobby." I really love signings like Book Bonanza because they're at the Gaylord and everybody stays there and everybody hangs out at the bar after. So readers are there, authors are there, and it's so easy to catch up with people. And so I really love that situation. But yes, I'm all about cultivating a community with readers and with bloggers and with authors. So anytime I go to an event like this, I'm like, please, can we get together outside of the madness of the actual signing?
Yes. Yes. I can imagine. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad it was a good time and that you're recovering and all of that good stuff. And now it's like turn the focus to the promotion for Learn Your Lesson. So excited for this book. Tell us everything we need to know about it.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know. how to wrap it up. So I'm in my hockey era, which is so fun. I am a really big football girly. Hockey is probably my second love. So it's like football and hockey are pretty close. And I was so excited to start this series. So Meet Your Match was book 1. Watch Your Mouth, that just came out in October, is book 2. And this is book 3. They're all complete standalone, so you can jump in with book 3. You don't have to read book 1 and 2. I always recommend reading the tropes. I have the tropes list at the bottom of the description on these books. And so you can kind of decide from the tropes alone if it's the one you want to read. So this one is single dad, and it's his daughter's kindergarten teacher who then becomes the nanny. Very much a grumpy sunshine situation. She's like hell bent on making not just him smile and laugh, but his daughter, who has emulated him and is kind of like a grumpy kid.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it was so fun to write. It's very spicy. I think like this was the first book, the only book so far that I've written from start to finish while I was pregnant. And the hormones just did something different to me. So the spice is spicy. It was so fun to write. And yeah, as you said, I think since book 1, my readers of this particular series have been dying for Daddy P, our grumpy single dad of a goalie. So it was so fun to finally bring him to life. And it's the longest book of the series so far, which is also kind of fun. And yeah, it keeps doing this bubble thumb thing.
It's like, yes, this book sounds great.
This book.
We can't wait for it. Yes. Well, I remember from book 1, a scene with him, I think it was maybe on an airplane or something, and he just had his headphones in. You could tell he was just the quiet guy in the corner. And I'm like, I want to know more about this guy. I mean, I don't even think he wrote much about it, but I was just like hooked already from that. And I'm like, there's more to this guy's story, and I can't wait for it. So
I think that's what's so fun about writing like the interconnected standalones is kind of teasing the characters who are to come. There's another character, Livia, who is Maven's best friend from book 1. And everyone was like, please tell me Livia gets a book. And she does. So she will be book 5 with Carter. So I'm really excited about that. And in Learn Your Lesson, you're going to get a really big tease of the next book, which is it's like the hockey bad boy, Alex, and a major pop star who's named Mia Love. And so it'll be like a fake engagement between like the bad boy of the NHL and this like super squeaky clean pop star. And they actually know each other because his family, he like billeted with her family as a kid. So basically just means that in order to play hockey, he stayed with her family so that he could be in the States and play hockey. So lots of history there. Kind of like, he loves to ruffle her feathers. And I'm so excited to write that one next.
So do you for your series, do you have it all the books plotted out from the beginning? How does that work for you in your writing process?
Yeah, every series has been completely different. Some of them I just know book 1 and I dive in and kind of figure it out. The last 2, so the Red Zone Rivals and then now Kings of the Ice, I really kind of had an idea going in. I knew at the very least my main characters and kind of what the tropes of the books were going to be. And then some of it kind of fills in from there. So it's really nice when you go into a series kind of having a roadmap and then you don't drive too far off in one direction or the other. And it makes it really fun too, because I can so confidently tease what's coming up without feeling like I've written myself into a corner, because I know exactly what's happening with them. So I'm like, oh, I can confidently tease Daddy P now because I'm ready to write him,
Yeah. So I already know Daddy P is going to be one of our favorite book boyfriends of the year. So because I love that he's grumpy, and I love that he's a single dad, and his focus is hockey and his girl, right? What else sort of to you stands out that makes him such an awesome book boyfriend?
Well, I think you guys are going to swoon over him just being a dad. At least that really did it for me. This was my first time writing a single dad, and I love to read single dads. So I totally understand why this trope is huge. But he's just all about hockey and his team and his daughter. And he's so focused on those things. He will do anything for them. But this book is really about him sort of dealing with his grief that he buried. And his grief had such a strong hold on him for the first year or so. And then in an effort to be there for his team and for his daughter, he just buried it really deep. And that's how he's gone through. So Chloe kind of pops into his life like a little ray of sunshine and is like hell bent on getting him to have fun and getting him to loosen up. And as he does, he's just finding these little sparks of joy, especially when he sees his daughter start to have a good time. And he is just like, why he's questioning, like, why did he handle the grief that the way he did? And is there a way to sort of come back to who he was before, or even like find a new version of himself that doesn't have to be so grumpy and closed off and
Oh, I love that.
missing out. So yeah, it's that stuff's what I love character depth and I love diving into that. I mean, I would say most of my books are very character driven. There's a lot of plot, there's a lot of things going on, but for the most part, I'm going to take you on a character journey.
Yeah. Well, you said you love to read single dad romance. Like, since this was your first one, was it harder than you thought? Or like, oh no, this is everything that I love about reading it. And so this is here we go. And it was just flowing. Or what was that like writing a new trope for you?
That is a great question. I saw so many of the scenes and so much about him and Chloe before I ever wrote. So in my notes, you'll see if you open up the notes app on my phone, it'll just say book idea, book idea, book idea, book idea. And if it's a specific book, it'll have their name. So it would like, I had a million Daddy P notes in my phone. So in that sense, it was easy. The inspiration was there. I had a clear idea of what I wanted to write for them. The most difficult part of writing it was that all my readers really wanted this one. And I had to drop the what do they want out of it or what are they expecting to get out of it and just write the story the way that I saw it and the way that I felt it. And
Mhm.
this gets progressively more difficult the more well-known you become as an author. I
Yeah.
used to never think about my reader until the book was done. But now when you have people saying like, "Oh, I hope he ends up with this person," or "I hope this happens," or "I hope that happens," you sort of have to turn off that noise and say, I need to trust myself and they need to trust me too that I'm gonna write the story the way it needs to be written, you know?
Yes. Yes, exactly. But my big question about him, his long hair, like, did you envision like somebody for him? Or do you think of like these physical characteristics that you're like, he's going to have long blonde locks and everyone's going to love
Yeah.
it. So I don't know why that
Yeah.
sticks out to me about him, but
Okay. So what I love about hockey players is so many of them do have like the long flow, right? Like
oh,
they're
yeah.
they're all about their like long kind of shaggy hair. Now, Daddy P's hair is very long in comparison. Like he took it to a whole nother level. But when I was drafting this and thinking about the characters, I really pictured like Brendan Fraser circa like George of the Jungle days. I was
That's, oh
just like,
my gosh.
that's who I'm seeing. And I imagined it starting like, he was in college, he was on a playoff run, and they said, we're not cutting our hair until we lose a game. And right. And then it just
Yeah.
became, he had this long hair, he loved it, and it just kept growing.
Oh my gosh. That's awful. that, I'll have to envision that in my head. But yeah, there aren't any hockey teams in Tennessee, are there? I don't know.
So there's the Nashville Predators, but I'm
Great.
originally from Florida, so I just moved to Tennessee last April. So I'm
Okay.
a huge Tampa Bay Bolts fan, which is, why I have the team, the Tampa Bay Ospreys. They're same colors, blue and white, like very much based off of my team. And all of my research that I've done on hockey has primarily been on Tampa. So I
Yeah.
definitely research other teams, but I've gone to so many Tampa games. And I remember specifically when I was plotting out this series, I went to five. And instead of going as a fan, which I've gone to a gajillion as a fan, I went as a writer and like brought my phone, brought my notebook. And we sat on the glass for one game. We sat by the team tunnel for one game. We sat up by the suites for another game just so I could get different
That's
perspectives. Like,
smart.
yeah, it was the most fun part of my job. And I still have the note in my phone when I was sitting, down by the tunnel and you can see everything they're doing in between plays. And I was like, why are they smelling salts? Why do they have multiple sticks? How do they tape their sticks? Like blah, blah, blah. And then when I had the chance to interview a hockey player and his wife, who's one of my readers and incredible. And so I got to ask all my questions and more. And it's really fascinating. This is so fun for me, this part of writing, being able to do a little bit of research into something you might not know about.
Yeah, the total behind the scenes. I love football too, but there's something about a live hockey game and just the sounds, the back and forth, it's awesome. Like we have a minor league team here and we went to a game recently and so no seat's bad, but you try to get up as close as you can and it's just so fun. I love it.
The energy is unlike anything else. That's what made me fall in love with hockey is I went to a game, we got random seats from my job, and I was like, this is incredible. The buzzer's going off, everyone's screaming, it's nonstop action. I was hooked from that point.
Yes, exactly. Well, and I love that he's a goalie. So we know we're going to love Daddy P. He's book boyfriend of the year probably already. So tell us about our heroine, Chloe. Like, I'm super intrigued by her, even though we only know just a little bit how, she's grown up that men are trash,
Yeah.
and I really want to get her backstory really bad. So what are we going to love about her?
Yeah. Oh, Chloe is maybe one of my favorites that I've written. She's so fun. So she's a kindergarten teacher and she's, I think, 26 when the story opens. And so she has really thrown herself into being a teacher. She loves it. And she has like zero dating life. She is always starting different projects, different crafts, listening to podcasts, watching movies. She's very content with her kind of solo life, right? Like not lonely, just living alone. And a big part of that is because she was raised by her mom and her grandmother, so a matriarchy that were very much like, do not trust men, be independent, men will lie to you, don't ever get married, don't ever have kids. Basically, that was instilled in her. So the one time that she was really curious about it when she was younger, she was like, I love romance. I'm really curious. I just want to see what will happen. So she goes to college, hooks up with a guy at a frat party, and it's terrible. So her like one experience with a guy is awful. And she's like, Mom and Grandma were right. Like, I don't need any further proof.
Right.
So that's kind of where she is in the beginning of the book. So where Will's journey, right, is kind of dealing with grief a little bit. Her journey is sort of figuring out what she wants despite what her mother and her grandmother have told her. And also sort of letting go of the resentment that they have pushed onto her for men. And she's just she's inexperienced, right? So she has this hot, like super confident goalie that she's living with that is just the sexual chemistry is on fire. And she's so desperate to figure out what to do with she's like, I have no idea where to even start. That she makes an anonymous Reddit thread. And she's like, okay, it's like, my boss is super hot. I think there's something between us, but I don't even know what to do. And so it's really fun. And then eventually turns into him giving her spicy lessons, which is one of my all-time favorite tropes.
Okay, we're going there because it is one of my all-time favorite tropes too. I just love those books. And so yeah, you other than Daddy P, which you had me there, you had me at spicy lessons for this book because I'm like, I am there for it. I want them all because I don't know I do know what it is about this trope, that trope, because I love particularly when it's sort of the female who needs some of the lessons, right? Because I love when the hero becomes that safe space for them to just be and to figure it out. And sometimes that's messy, but to just be that safe space. So are we going to get a lot of that in this book?
Yes, you're going to get a lot of that. And it's so funny because it starts from like the first time that they hook up. He's not aware of her inexperience the first time.
Okay.
And then when she tells him, he's like, are you kidding me? Like I wouldn't have done all this. I just did. And she's like, no, it's great. I want more. So, and then it kind of develops from there. But what I love especially about Daddy P is like, if you liked Blindside, right? Which Blindside was my first time writing fake dating. It was my first time writing spicy lessons and I just ate it up. Like I can't explain the way I felt writing that book. And Daddy P is like the grown up version of Clay, right? Like he is just a man. He has been through so much and he is not afraid to sort of test her. So where Clay and Gianna had the books to kind of guide.
And I use that example all the time. I'm like, Clay is amazing that he would smart that he would go and look at her books for what does she like and stuff. I loved that about the book.
Oh, if only more men were like that. I don't know if you've seen, there's a couple TikToks right now of men pretty much bashing spicy books. And I'm like, you guys are missing the point. It's going right
Totally.
over your head.
I'm like, my husband knows like the password on my iPad. I'm like, feel free. I
Feel
highlight things. Go in and read whatever you want.
Please search my tabs. Please search my tabs. So yeah, so similar vibes, but where Gianna and Clay were like, I guess more playful and sort of, younger. This is an older couple and Daddy P he is all about guiding her through, and it's very intense from the get-go. He's like, we're going to test everything. And she, even though she's inexperienced, she's older. So she's had time to explore her own body. So she's not afraid to ask for things. She's not afraid to be like, so sometimes when I'm, having self-care, I like this. What does that mean? And then they can sort of, go from there. So it was so fun. And I think this is my favorite combination in any book, whether I'm reading it or writing it, is I love when the characters are rich, there's humor, there's plot, there's things going on, but the spice is also like a huge component and not just a filler. Like, I don't want a filler scene. I don't want sex just for there to be sex. I want it to feel real for the characters, and like, I want it to match their vibes. So yeah, I'm very excited about it.
I had to go, I admit, I had to go back and be like, so what else did P stand for? Like in the book, I'm like, oh yeah, it's, pickle, cool as a cucumber. And I'm like, ooh, I hope she really like helps him lose his cool for a few scenes. Do you find it, or did it just flow for this one? Do you find it now as you're writing more that steamy scenes are easier to write, or do your books get more steamy as you go, or just sort of depends?
It really depends. And honestly, it has to make sense for the characters. I have some books that are really angsty and emotional and maybe don't lean so much on the spice because they don't need to, right? Like that wasn't really a big part of those two characters. Or maybe there's a lot of spice or times of them being together, but it's not as much like dirty talk, or it's not as much visceral, whatever. But I'm in my sports era right now. So there's a lot of like, these guys have a lot of testosterone going. They're really confident, and it just comes out in the bedroom so naturally when I'm writing them. So I'm just having fun. Like this series, I swear I have so many things popping into my mind. There's if you read Watch Your Mouth, well, actually, okay, if you read Meet Your Match, there's a pottery scene. That was one of the first things that came into my mind for them. Watch Your Mouth, there's a keychain scene. Again, one of the first things that came to mind. And in this book, there's a popsicle scene. And I don't want to give anything away, but Spicy Lessons popsicle, I'm sure you can figure it out.
Yeah. Loving it.
So it's just been so fun.
Everyone's already one-clicking right now after they heard that.
They're like, what chapter? What chapter is that? But so I love that so much of this is jumping out to me before I even get started. I think that makes it really fun. And it takes away the difficulty, because by the time I finally get to that point, I'm like cracking my knuckles. I'm like, I'm ready. I've got the choreography down. Like, I can't wait to write this.
That's so great. Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, you also mentioned that this is the first book you wrote while being pregnant, right? So what was, I mean, what did it change your experience or impact your characters at all, or any, especially since it was single dad? I don't know. Tell us more about that.
100%. It's been, I can't even, first of all, I was supposed to start writing this book the first week of December, I think was when I was supposed to start. And I found out I was pregnant like 3 days after Thanksgiving. And so I wrote.
Congratulations, by the way. I don't think I said that first. Yes.
Thank you. So I wrote for the first like 3 or 4 days of my scheduled writing, and then morning sickness and exhaustion hit me so hard. Exhaustion was already happening, but otherwise I felt okay. So I was like, oh, I'll just write for a couple hours, take a nap, get up and write more. It'll be fine. But once I started feeling sick and super tired, and I didn't feel in control of my emotions, and just all these things are happening, and I've never been pregnant before, so this was wild to me. And I just realized, okay, I can't write right now. This is not my good writing space, so I'm going to have to move slow. So I think in December, because I only wrote on the good days, I think I only wrote maybe 10 days total in December. And then I started feeling better, especially toward like the middle of January, and I just flew through it. And I mean, I had massive writing days because I had all this excitement, all this creative energy. I was thinking nonstop about these characters. I just didn't have the actual energy to write it. So once that came, you couldn't stop me. I think one day I wrote like 10,000 words in a day. It was nuts. My wrists were like inflamed.
It
But I
probably felt
love
so good in other respects. Yeah.
it felt so good. And I think at least from the feedback I've had so far, arcs have not gone out yet. They go out next week, but from my beta readers and my editor and just initial feedback, it feels like it was another level of chemistry and again of the spice and just the depth of the characters. There's a lot of friendship in this one, right? Because we're in book 3. So you get the girls from book 1 and 2, you get the guys from book 1 and 2, you've got the sneak peeks of the other characters coming, a lot of found family happening. So I feel like it was almost like stepping up my writing another level, which was really cool. And so much was happening in my life as I was writing this. So I think when I was editing this book was when I felt my daughter move for the first time. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. Like she was a sprinkle inside me when I when I
No,
started this book. I have a part to her in the acknowledgments because I'll never forget that this was like, the first book we wrote together and
yes.
it'll
Yes.
till she's 16 at least. But
My first is the girl. She is now 13, and I'm reading all the time, and she's like, "So, mom, tell me about this one." Like, "What's this one about? Tell me all about it." And it's
You
so fun.
know, I say 16, but I really don't know. I'm gonna have to like make the decision when I get there because I was exposed to things much younger than that, like 12, 13, movies, books, things that, and if my daughter's going to learn about sex and about consent, I would love it to be from books like mine, even if it's not mine, even if she's like, "You, mom, I'm never reading yours," and she
Right.
wants to read someone else's. I would love her to read about consent and healthy relationships and things of that nature from books that are written by women. I would love that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. And that's great that you took the time because, yeah, your body needs that rest at the beginning, and especially when you're feeling crappy. I had morning sickness with my second one too, and it's hard. So good for you. And then it turned out to be one of your longest books ever, which is
I know.
amazing.
I would know. It was so funny because when I sent it to my beta readers, it was 108,000 words. And I was like, guys, I know this one is long. Let me know if there's anything that you think I should cut, yada, yada. And I get my feedback and it's all, we need more of this. We need more of that. Can you add this scene? Can you add that scene? I was like, okay. And so at the end of the day, it was 120,000 words. So it is a thick, thick boy.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, and now that you're pregnant with your first, do you have people like coming out of the woodwork, like trying to tell you like all the things and give you, it's probably the most annoying thing, I don't know, of being pregnant, where you're like, please let me just have my own experience. You don't need to tell me all this.
Yes, yes. I will say in the beginning, I reached out to a lot of my friends who are moms and I did ask a lot. And so I was open to a lot of advice. But I think the unsolicited advice has definitely started rolling in a lot from family, which is
Of
interesting,
course.
right? My mom was the first, like the second she found out I was pregnant, she was like, "Are you going to get an epidural?" I was like, "Mom, I am 5 seconds pregnant. Let's just hold on."
Is this her first grandchild or no?
It's her third, but it's the
Okay.
first granddaughter, and it's
Okay.
first. So I'm
Right.
her, baby girl having one. So
Of course.
so she's she didn't talk to my brother about any of this. And so I finally had to have the conversation with her, and I was like, "I love you so much, mom. I appreciate everything that you're giving me, but just, like, wait until I come to you." And she's been so respectful of that she's coming down when the baby's born, and she's like, I will not offer advice unless you ask for it. I will just be there to hold the baby and do dishes
Yeah.
and do laundry and all the things." So,
Yeah. Pretty crazy though how bold like people could be. Even like after, I mean, our daughter came out with this huge, like full head of dark hair. I mean, of
oh,
course, I'm biased. She was gorgeous, right? So, but you take her out to like the grocery store. We took one out to dinner once, and like even the waitress, they're like touching her hair. And finally, my husband's like, "Please don't touch her anything." It's like
yeah.
the boldness that people have. You're like, this is not your child, or this is not. your body
No.
being pregnant. Just chillax, people.
Chill out. So when I went to Sweetgrass, I had a couple people message me and they're like, "Can I touch your belly when I meet you?" And I am such an open person that I was like, "Yeah, of course. Like I have a baby bump. Touch it, right?" But I thought about it and I was like, most people, probably 90% of people would be like, "Don't touch me. That's weird." So I ended up posting in the little signing group and was just like, if you want to rub my belly, I'm totally fine with you rubbing my belly. So I did get a couple people who did, but more often than not, there were people who were like, "You're so adorable. I would love to touch your belly, but I just don't think it's appropriate. So I'm gonna admire from afar." And so I do think more people are listening and understanding that, like, okay, there are boundaries when you're pregnant, because my mom said when she was pregnant, it was like strangers would come up to her and touch her belly, and she was like, "Can you
Yeah.
please not?"
Yeah, exactly. Boundaries for sure. Absolutely.
Boundaries.
So I'm totally blanking though. Have you written a heroine pregnant in a book? I can't place it now. Or is that something maybe you'll come down
So
the road?
funny that you ask. So the other book that I finished while pregnant, but I did not start it while pregnant. So I was more than halfway through. I think I only had like 25-30% left when I got pregnant, is Kyle's book from the Red Zone Rivals.
Oh.
And so, without spoiling anything, I'm going to put it in the blurb just because I don't want anyone to, be upset. But, she ends up getting pregnant in the third act. And so, writing that, let me tell you, I was not expecting Kyle Robbins, who was this absolute jerk in all of my book, all the Red Zone Rivals books. He has become one of my favorite heroes ever. He just completely stole my heart. And he's like the "who hurt you, I will kill them" vibes, right? He's
Mhm.
very protective. And this is his childhood sweetheart who he has not seen in a long time. They had something happen when they were younger that kind of drove them apart. And now he's reconnecting with her. She's a single mom and her ex is like a total a-hole. And so
Oh,
he's kind of like, "I will protect you. We're going to pretend to be together so that I can be your boyfriend and step in between you and this guy." And then through that, he just sees how much she does as a single mom and takes care of her and shows her this love in like acts of service and ways that she has not been cared for. And it just made me so hot. Acts of service for me is like top
yes,
notch.
for
So,
sure. That is my love language. Absolutely.
yeah. So anyway, I wrote her again. She gets pregnant toward the end. And so that was really cool to write it while it was happening to me too. And
Nice.
it was so funny because there was like I was writing it on Kindle Vella originally. And there were a couple of comments of people being like, "She wouldn't feel sick that early." And I was like, "You want to bet?" Because I didn't.
Right. That's awesome. Well, so much coming out this year from you, and so excited for Learn Your Lesson April 19th. Anything else we need to know about the book besides that we're going to love it and need to order it right now?
Well, okay, before I get too far away from it, that book I was just talking about, Kyle's book, is False Start, and it's coming out in June. So if you're a Red Zone Rivals fan, you get to see the
Yes.
whole crew, like Clay and Gianna's wedding, their baby. You catch up with Mary and Leo and Riley and Zeke and Holden and Julep. So it's really, really fun. And then for Learn Your Lesson, yeah, I mean, everything I've told you about it. There also, I think this is really fun to know, but there are like 3 chapters that happen at Disney. So if you are a Disney fan, it's really
Yeah.
so they go to Disney World. So you have like Grumpy Will on like the teacup ride, and he's just like very annoyed, but also soft for his daughter, right? So he's all about it.
To do recent research for that, or you're good. You were good on Disney. Yeah.
I did some research too. I've been to Disney many times, but I knew I needed to get every detail right because the Disney girls would come for me if I didn't. And
Oh, that's true. That's so true.
so I have a couple of beta readers too who are really big Disney people and they double checked me and everything. So hopefully it's great. And if not, feel free to message me and tell me if I've messed up. I will do my best to change it. But also, if you are an audiobook lover, the audiobooks for this series are duet narration, which I think is the best way to listen to an audiobook. It basically means the female narrator, she reads all of the female parts, whether it's in her chapter or his, and vice versa. So it can really bring chemistry to life and banter to life, and it's so fantastic. So this audiobook is going to be fire. I highly recommend listening if you're an audiobook girly.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, I was already excited for this book. Now I'm doubly excited People need to order. Learn Your Lesson comes out April 19th. It's going to be fantastic. I said it there, folks. You definitely want to go jump online right now and pre-order Learn Your Lesson, which drops this week because it's going to be amazing. Kandi was such a gem to talk with for this interview. She's incredible in all of the work that she's been doing, and I felt like I could really talk with her for hours. And while we didn't necessarily talk for more hours, we did continue this interview where I asked about Kandi the reader, what she loves about this genre, which book started this love for her, who her favorite book boyfriends are, and so much more. You can catch this extended interview if you become a member of the She Reads Romance Books book club, which I'm so excited to say is going to be launching this week. So it's a really big week all around, from the release of Learn Your Lesson and the She Reads Romance Books book club. It really can't get any better. But you are absolutely going to love the book club. This is going to be a community of romance book readers where we read one romance book together and get together virtually on Zoom to talk about it, and get together online each month as well to talk with the author who wrote it. I have a feeling that I'm going to have to pick a Kandi Steiner book for 1 month coming up because she will be a blast to talk with in our author Q&A sessions. But that is not all. As a member of the book club, you will also gain access to the book club community forum where you can chat with and connect with other members, find buddy readers, or just meet with people who share your love of reading romance and can swap book recommendations and all the like. You'll also get my exclusive books like list for each monthly selection. And as I mentioned earlier, all of my exclusive videos of these podcast interviews with their extended endings. And when you sign up this week, you can watch this video with Kandi and get all of the book club materials for our May 2024 book selection. So keep checking shereadsromancebooks.com/book club to see when it goes live, and I'll include the link in the show notes below. I really hope to see you in the club. And in the meantime, then, don't forget to snag your copy of Learn Your Lesson, which releases on April 19th. I'll include a link to the book in the show notes, as well as links where you can find Kandi online, so you can sign up for her newsletter, and where you can find her on all of her social channels. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. And as always, happy reading, because life is better with a love story. That's all for this episode of the She Reads Romance Books podcast. I hope you enjoyed it and found some new books to add to your TBR list. If you did, please subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. It really helps me reach more romance book lovers like you, and I appreciate your support. If you're a book boyfriend collector like me, then you'll want to join my email list so you never miss a podcast episode or a new book list. Just visit shereadsromancebooks.com/join and sign up today. As a thank you, I'll instantly send you my list of top 10 book boyfriends that will make you swoon. Trust me, you don't want to miss this list. Thank you for listening, and until next time, happy reading.